my role has evolved at Mobify, and I'm the Vice President of Strategy and Corporate Development now. And I spend a bunch of time with executives working with them on their mobile strategy and their mobile customer engagement strategy in particular. I also manage our technology partnerships and our relationships with Google, Apple, and Facebook. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about how mobile is impacting the future of commerce. It's true that the phone will remain the center of the universe. There are certainly a lot of developments happening around proliferation of devices with IoT, and VR is coming. And while those things are all true, the phone will remain the primary way that folks access the internet and shop. And that's no surprise here in the Middle East, where the majority of people access the internet through their phone. And market penetration, well, we'll see other interesting devices. The only device that will near 100% and maintain those rates of penetration will be the phone. And from a commerce standpoint, what's going on here is very similar to the adoption of the internet in other places in the world, where it begins with social and email. And most markets here have already moved into the next level, where basic business services and online banking and travel are ways that you use commerce. In the more advanced markets, particularly in the GCC countries, sales of consumer goods and already exist, and emerging sales of beauty and health and grocery products are all contributing to a near doubling of e-commerce by 2018, where the numbers will be over $10 billion US in e-commerce sales. But with that maturity in commerce comes new challenges. And that challenge really is that mobile has killed the marketing funnel. There is no linear path to purchase. We live in a world of fractured, fleeting moments, mobile moments. And because the phone is such a personal device, consumer expectations have changed. With every interaction, they want context, convenience, and simplicity. And so the cost and complexity for businesses to deliver on those expectations is growing exponentially. And unfortunately, for most businesses, you are not the ones setting consumer expectations. Those expectations are being driven by innovative technology companies like Google, Apple, and Facebook, but they're also being driven by innovative technology startups, whether that's Airbnb or Snapchat, and you're not competing with your like-for-like competitors anymore. You're competing with the last great digital experience that a shopper had, whether that was sharing a photo with a friend on Snapchat or booking a ride via Careem. And with this maturity in mobile on the consumer side, there's a corresponding need for businesses to advance their own maturity in terms of their interactions with their customers. And this ends up functioning a bit like a conveyor belt, where innovative and disruptive technologies and business models suddenly become standard customer expectations. And for you to be able to maintain your competitive edge and match customer expectations and move to a world where you're not just shrinking and squeezing or thinking about mobile first, where you're actually putting your customer first and meeting their expectations, you have to be constantly innovating. And so today I want to focus on one area of innovation in particular. And it's sort of an old, boring area that is becoming important again, and that's the mobile web. And what's happening on the mobile web is that we're seeing a convergence between the mobile web itself and native applications, where developers of native applications are trying to garner the advantages that the web has had for years in terms of being frictionless and having a huge reach. And mobile web developers, the browser vendors, are all working to get the engagement and lifetime value that we've seen in native applications. And honestly, even in places like Google, where there are teams on the play side in native applications, they think that they might win with things like instant apps. And on the Chrome team, they're certain that they're going to win because of all of the new engagement possibilities on the mobile web. What really matters for most consumers is it won't make a difference who wins to them. What will happen is that they just will have new expectations on their most personal device, the phone. Now, apps will still have a place in the world, but their place in the world will be based on experiences primarily. Those experiences that you want to create only when you need to access the native features and the functionality of the phone, whether that's the accelerometer or whether that is proximity triggers so that you can create a unique in-store experience. Apps will still have a place, but even in their old best use case around loyalty, the experience is moving beyond just points to a system of VIP experiences and unique product offerings. So the future of apps really is about things like augmented reality and in-store interactions with smart mirrors. And a lot of that focus on what's happening in native apps is because of the way that the web itself is progressing. With progressive web applications, app-style interactions, navigation, and speed are all possible. And so you can re-engage users with things like push notifications. You can get the fast, amazing experience that you have on native applications. And shopper expectations are moving to demand a much more app-like experience on the web itself. And the biggest impact we see across our customers at Mobify is really around performance. Big increases in revenue because of the ability to increase the speed of interaction that increases both the engagement of your customers and also their conversion rates. And so as we work with retailers and multi-channel telcos around the world like British Telecom and Nordstrom and Lancome and Extra Electronics in Saudi Arabia, we see a significant impact from meeting the need for customer speed and around performance, where their time to complete a task is more than twice as fast than previous generation mobile-first solutions, thinking about progressive. And a lot of that happens from changing the way that the loading experience happens. So instead of the traditional approach where the client requests the content from the server then sends the content, the client waits, and the user sees sort of hopefully a white flash if it's a fast loading experience, and then all of the content populates at once. That slow loading experience is measured in performance terms with things like page load times or DOM content loaded. And so the new world of progressive web applications improves the customer experience, not just with new technologies like Service Worker that allow caching in the background, but also by changing the loading experience itself. And so the new model is the client requests the content from the server, it immediately renders the content which is available, and then fills in the rest of the content around that. So if you've ever used an application like Facebook, you've seen this loading experience where the gray bars fill in, some of the content fills immediately, and it feels very fast. So this instant rendering is both actually physically faster, but perhaps more importantly is perceived as a faster experience by the user. And so you think about performance this way as sort of time to first interaction or time to value or time to complete task as being the most important performance metrics in today's world. The customer experience also improves through a more app-like design, bigger buttons, bigger calls to action, and it's necessary because customers spend so much time inside of native applications that they've come to demand a app-like experience from a design standpoint as well. And you're able to increase engagement overall with push notifications. So push notifications have existed for a long time. You've all gotten them inside of native apps. But for a little over a year now, they've existed on the mobile web as well, where you subscribe to a push notification through permissions, the same way you do for native applications. And you don't have to be at the site. You don't even have to have the browser open. And you can be sent push notifications within context. And we're seeing a significant increase in engagement, and they've been adopted very quickly, with Google sending over 10 billion push notifications a day in Chrome. And you can increase the lifetime value of your best customers with new functionality on the mobile web, where a user can be prompted to add the site to their home screen, whether it's after a couple of visits or whether you want to ask for permission of something like that on a key landing page like the checkout confirmation page that allows you to get brand real estate. But this icon on the home screen is not just the janky old version of a bookmark that you used to have on the mobile web. It actually allows you to launch the website from the icon, generates a full app-style splash screen, and then brings you into an immersive experience on the mobile web with no URL showing and a very app-like experience. Sad to say this in a room with many telecoms, but the reality is that most users are on flaky networks. And if they aren't on flaky networks, they're shifting between Wi-Fi and their actual network. They're on a train, they're losing connectivity. And so with progressive web applications, there's also offline functionality. Now, the offline functionality is not intended for you to go off the grid for weeks at a time. It's really to facilitate a seamless experience for the average mobile user who is on a flaky network, who it might be in the middle of completing a task or adding something to their cart, where you can now continue to browse and add to cart items that you have already interacted with, and then when you come back online, allow you to seamlessly continue the experience. And maybe the final frontier of the way that the web itself is becoming more app-like is around payments. You've all seen mobile payments inside of native applications where Apple Pay or Android Pay, and you have that seamless one-click checkout, just brings up a clean payment sheet. That functionality is now possible on the mobile web. Very important because 46% of cart abandonment is happening at the checkout phase, and that's really because people don't like to fill out forms on mobile, and the checkout process is cumbersome and slow, particularly in a world where you might only have a few seconds to complete a transaction in your fractured mobile moments. And so now these payments are available on the web itself, both through Apple Pay now being supported on the web, but also a new standard from the World Wide Web Consortium working group that facilitates app-like payments on the web. In the last webinar that we did with Google, it was indicated that not only do these things already support things like credit card for app-style payments, but important in this region that they will also provide support for cash-on-delivery payments within app-like checkout experience. But the impact of mobile on commerce is not just online commerce, it's actually in-store shopping as well. In a place like Dubai where social shopping is normal activity, if not competitive sport, you'll understand that it's normal that 82% of mobile shoppers actually complete their purchases in physical store locations. And so it's really important to think about mobile as the connection between online to offline, where you want to show local in-stock inventory to be able to drive someone to a store that's nearby, to provide experiences in-store like endless aisle to show another store location if an item is out of stock, or to be able to actually complete your transaction online. We're seeing enormous impact across our customer base in terms of revenue lift, over 20% growth in revenue driven by both higher conversion rates and higher average order value. A recent case study released by Google on our customer, Extra Electronics, their use of push notifications is outperforming email in terms of re-engagement and sales. And so adopting the features and functionality of progressive web applications are more than just matching new customer expectations. It's also a way to deliver bottom line growth. So what we're seeing overall is that there's sort of a new category emerging within mobile marketing that we call mobile customer engagement. And it's really comprised of three existing things, categories that already exist within the marketing world. The first is customer experience, but customer experience is no longer just design and UI and user experience. It's actually the engagement, how you're communicating with your customers in any given mobile moment. But to be able to do it at scale, you can't have a few marketers behind keyboards trying to interact with shoppers. You have to actually incorporate marketing automation. And it can't be done without a focus on retention. Because so many mobile moments, the interactions that you have are non-transactional. It's really key to focus on customer lifetime value and building a relationship with your shoppers. And so we're seeing a world emerge both from technology advances like 5G and augmented reality that support the notion that the store will be everywhere. And it will be augmented, always available, and possible for everyone to shop at any given moment. But the reality is that the phone will remain at the center of that experience for a long time to come.